Welcome to the ECG podcast, a show where some East Coast buddies who have never met in person gather remotely once a week to hang out and talk about our love of video games and other shared interests. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Waterman from Jacksonville, Florida, joined this evening by Mr. Adam Gumbert from Lexington, Kentucky.
Hey, what's going on?
He's holding up a card for our audio listeners here.
I've got to take it around my background, get around to the other people, so I can make fun of Zach real quick.
We have Zach Cassell from Boston, Massachusetts.
Training camp's underway. All right, it's great. Hey, all right.
Jonathan Taylor, rookie patch card.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I haven't seen him in a while. He's playing football now.
He's black and he's a running back now. It's wild.
Whoa! And last but not least, we've got Mr. Georgia Ravelo from Miami, Florida.
Hey, her. Hey, this woman.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. We will be talking about ScarJo's suit against the Disney company over presumably desired and unpaid royalties, aka box office take, that was cut into thanks to the simultaneous launch in Disney Plus and theaters for Black Widow. We're going to be talking about Activision Blizzard once again in the news, and not for any reason that's good or really something that we'd ever want to talk about on the show, but you know, it is what it is, and have to. It's an important topic. It just sucks that we are talking about it once again. And then finally, we will be doing a little D&D update. So George and myself have been in a campaign since the end of last year, playing virtually every week. Just about. We've had a couple weeks off, but pretty consistently, and we'll be sharing our experience of D&D and chatting a little bit with Adam, who's played more than us, and Zach, who's only played a session but seems to have some cursory knowledge of the game. Now, George, it was a big week for you and me, buddy. What did we do yesterday? What did we get our hands on?
Oh man, yesterday. Wait, what was yesterday? Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
D&D.
No. What did we acquire yesterday that we were all?
Oh shit, we're fucking going to Vegas if all things, if everything goes to plan and the country doesn't get locked down and go to shit again. We will be going to Vegas to watch the UFC fight on International Fight Week in September. I assume that's what you're referencing.
It is indeed, yes.
Okay.
Very excited for that. We secured some UFC tickets for UFC 266, right?
Who's the card?
It's headlined by a title fight between Brian Ortega and Alexander Volkanovski, and then a women's flyweight title fight with, I think that's going to be Lauren Murphy against Valentina Shevchenko. But the real main event, the people's main event, is Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler 2, 17 years later from their origin. These two guys past their prime. Nick Diaz hasn't fought in 5 years. But I don't give a shit.
Should be very exciting.
Diaz's name in UFC is just like.
Is he related to? There's a Nate Diaz too, right?
Yeah, that's his brother. That's
Okay.
his little brother.
Hey, I don't want to assume. You know, like.
Yeah, like if one of them are fighting, man, the crowd is for them no matter what. The only time I ever really saw it split was when he fought Conor.
Yeah.
Well, that should be
Other than
really
that,
fun, man.
Like the Diaz name, like they don't give a shit.
This will be my second in-person UFC fight, so I'm really in 1 year, no less, which would be really, really cool. I haven't been to Vegas in over a decade now, so that will also be interesting. Marianne will be joining us, and it's been, I think, longer than a decade. She was out in Vegas for a single night back when she was in the Marines, and understandably doesn't remember much of it. So yeah, well, stay tuned. We'll talk about that trip more, assuming it happens, once we get back in September. So let's dive into it. I want to get the bad out of the way. Activision Blizzard in the headlines again for essentially just a big old shit show of toxic masculinity, horrible work culture, allegations of sexual harassment, you name it. I mean, this is a wild story. The more that's come out on this, just the more I've kind of shaken my head and been like, wow, this is unbelievable. I don't know if you guys saw I think you posted in the Discord, George, the photos of the Cosby suite and some of the screenshots of the chats and things like that. And, I've seen a lot of apologists online saying, well, like, oh, that's from 2013. Like, it's like it would have been okay back then. You and I were both employed with our current employer back in 2013, and I could tell you this shit would not have flown back then with our employer, if a manager,
Yeah.
even a manager, got wind of anything like this, like you'd be in deep shit. So I'm gonna open it up there. Like I'm not gonna rehash like all the details and the headlines. It's just suffice to say, there's a huge lawsuit going on between former, I think maybe in current employees, certainly former employees of Activision Blizzard, that has kind of culminated in a strike and walkout this week. So take it away.
Yeah. I think coming from like a corporate environment, like it just like I don't understand. Like this to me, I mean, yeah, look, people are fucking jackasses, right? You know, and I guess yeah, the toxic masculinity and all that. Like, you know, sometimes, a lot of times, men don't know how to behave, right? Don't know how to act. Some of us were raised that way, but it's no excuse, especially in this day and age, right? But my biggest issue here, honestly, is with I just think of like some of the companies that I've worked for. Like this really starts and ends with Activision Blizzard and what they value as a company. Like, I mean, just look at their initial response to the lawsuit, right? You know, then they had to have a response to their response to the lawsuit and all this other damage control before they finally are like, okay, I'm sorry, we fucked up. But I mean, like Activision Blizzard has come up under scrutiny for controversy like time and time again. And you know what they had the censorships, right? They were the ones involved in the censorship stuff, right?
Free Hong Kong. Yep.
Yeah, like they're always coming up for something and having to apologize it later after acting like dicks up front about it, you know? So it's like you guys have had a lot of opportunities to see the writing in the wall and to see just kind of what kind of work environment you've created or allowed to happen, and you choose to do nothing. You downplay it, and now it's blowing up in your faces, and deservedly so. Like this stuff is it's disgusting, man. Like I mean, no, it wouldn't have been cool in 2013. It's not cool now. Like grow up, man. You know, and it's just, and I would argue a lot of these things, some of them are maybe seem small, but like, dude, the culmination of all these things, all of them completely unchecked, no accountability, no consequences for anybody involved. I don't think anyone's here is crying for the firing of everybody or anything like that, but there's just no one's checking any of this kind of behavior. It's unfortunate, man. They're getting everything that they deserve at this point. Yeah, I don't know what else I could say about it.
You know, the top of the show when I said like it's something that we don't want to talk about. To be clear, in case it wasn't clear, I don't mean that like, you know, it's not an important topic of discussion. I just wish that it wasn't still a topic of conversation in 2021. You know what I mean? Like where it seems like people should know better. Certainly I think their initial response is really what got under my skin the most of everything, because it's like, A, there's no way that like a lot of top people didn't know about this shit, and B, like you might as well start taking ownership then and there, because you know the size of you know, or the sheer number of people that were involved in the lawsuit, and then also kind of weighing in, like you're not going to be able to keep that shit under wraps. So like why call it baseless and all that other shit? Like you fucking know, right? Like you look like a bunch of jackasses who don't want to frankly take responsibility, and it makes me believe even the most unbelievable stories that came out of this, right? Like given what their response was.
You also have like I don't know, I don't want to like generalize people or anything like that, but like I've always had an issue with kind of like the internet culture, right? That everybody is entitled, like feels like they're entitled to act and behave and say things because they're behind a computer screen or behind a keyboard. And for the most part, right, during the age of the internet era, like you've had no consequences for saying whatever kind of stupid shit, you know? Whether it's not having the consequences of being punched in the face or being fired by your employer, like that's gone on for a really long time. It's starting to come to a stop, but that's been an issue for a long time. And unfortunately, I think you've got an environment here where the internet community and the gaming community are very much intertwined, right? And there's a lot of toxicity when it comes to gamers with that kind of behavior, because they've always been protected by their internet or being behind a screen or, you know, keyboard or whatever you want to call it. And I feel like some of that kind of shit, like kind of seeps over into this, you know, a gaming company, a game development company, and that kind of behavior is transferring over where all these people are just acting like jackasses because they think they can get away with it.
Yeah, it seems systemic. I mean, like that seems like a deep rooted problem within your company, right? Like similar to like stories that have come out about like Riot Games, you know, within the last couple of years. Like you know, it's another example of this where Like this isn't just like a one-off or like, oh, this is like a quote bad egg, you know, like don't make identify like this seems like something that is very much like kind of top to bottom, and it's just it's a fucking shame. It's embarrassing, like frankly, you know, in this day and age that the conversation needs to be had, and you know that the kind of shit's still going on. Zach, Adam, what do you guys think? You know, well, like how did you react to the news? I guess when you heard it, and I don't know, add anything that you feel compelled to add.
Zach, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is a giant shit show, really, and it's super unfortunate that's even happening. And you know, one of the big things that they taught us while in the military, right? Because sexual misconduct in the military is huge, you know, and it's like if you see it, man, you gotta say something, and that's like there had to have been, you know, good apples who noticed something bad going on, who maybe just don't want to say anything at the I don't know, like the what's the word I'm looking for, like them being punished somehow.
Yeah,
right?
their
Or
fear of
something like that.
retribution or like retaliation.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, man, but like it prevents something like this from happening, where people like I'm not saying on the behalf that they got caught. I'm saying like it should have never escalated to this point. Like it's crazy. If people just stand up for other people, and I mean, you guys just said everything, you know, that pretty much needs to be said. That's just the one thing I think's crazy, man. Like you got to stick up for the person next to you.
Yeah, but you bring up a great point with that, right? Like it's got to start at like the ground level, like you know what I mean. Like, and it, you know, it does. I know depending on the environment and culture, like that could be a courageous thing. You know, that I imagine that's not easy for some people, but like we gotta do better, right? Like you gotta take that step and back that person up. I think that's an awesome point. I'm sorry, George, you were saying something.
No, did you see like how they tried to defend the Cosby suite? Like what they're like, oh no, we were referring to his sweater and how the rooms look dated. Like get the fuck out of here, man. Like in 2013, the allegations on Cosby were all over the place. You know, like that ain't what you meant. You're full of shit. Just fucking nah.
Yeah, you look way worse now trying to defend yourself than just coming out and be like, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you look at like
Really,
like James Gunn, you know, like who has a movie coming out next week. I'm sure we'll talk about. Like look at his situation, right, with the jokes that he made like on Twitter, and he got fired. Like he could have doubled down and said like, you know, like, oh, I mean, come on, they're jokes or whatever, or it was back then, you know, like the internet's changed, and I don't know, what did he say? Like he said, you know what, like I'm sorry, like you know, I've grown a lot, like this isn't who I am anymore, but yeah, I said that stuff and it wasn't appropriate or like, you know, like funny, like even if you don't mean it, which a lot of times these companies, let's be honest, don't, like, come on, man, just fucking say, you know, say it. Like, it frustrates me to no end because I have no idea who's working in their legal or PR departments that's allowing them to you know, to have this kind of response.
I mean, I guess there's legal stuff, I guess. So any kind of apology could be seen as an admission of guilt in some extent, right? You know, and you've got legal proceedings and things to worry about. So I mean, I get it, but it's
then
just
don't
like,
comment, you know.
Shut the fuck up.
Save
like,
face and do nothing.
Yeah.
shut the fuck up. I mean, it's hard, and I can imagine being accused of something and then you like, you know, I don't know, man. You're grasping at straws. These are already people who aren't exactly of high moral character to begin with. So is it entirely shocking that they're going to be ridiculous in when they're defending themselves? Sorry, Adam. I mean, you haven't had to say anything.
Suppose, yeah, that's true. Good point. Yeah, Adam. So hit us with Adam's hot take on this, or cold take, or lukewarm take, whatever.
Not a hot take. I mean, the people who do those things are awful people, and it happens literally everywhere, at every company in the world, at every possible situation. People like that who have power over someone will take advantage of it. So when someone says that something's happening, believe them and try to support them. That's it. I mean, just don't be an awful human being. And if it's happening to you, try to get help. You know, as men, we've never. I'm assuming none of us have ever been sexually harassed like women get sexually harassed. So I can't talk on their behalf.
I did one time, and I got a small taste of that. It's a story for another.
I'm sure it's not great. I'm sure, but they get it a lot worse.
No,
than
no,
us,
I got a small
general.
taste of it. Okay, some context, right? I went to a gay bar one time with some friends and coworkers. Like, I don't care. I don't give a shit. I'll go anywhere. You know, I'm not gay for the record. I mean, you guys would know that, but audience might not. And I went and first of all, I would say it's a good time because they gave you really strong drinks, at least in the places that I went to. And I just went with coworkers and friends. I didn't mind, but I definitely did get a taste of what it's like, what I can imagine being a woman in like a straight club, right? Having people look at you, and it just the looks can be a little bit uncomfortable. I kind of shrugged them off because I expected it, but then I'm like, damn, I can't imagine what it's like to be a woman and deal with this every day. Those are just looks. It's not like anyone said anything to me or touched me or anything like that. But looks can be uncomfortable. I can't imagine what it's like to be a woman just dealing with this every day. And it's a lot more than looks. So again, I wasn't harassed or anything like that. But imagine, that was just me a couple hours, hanging out somewhere having drinks, so
Yeah, that times 40 hours a week with someone who has more power than you. Like it's awful. So yeah, just believe these people and let investigation happen and just support people and don't be an awful person. Like if you're innocent, then you'll be innocent, and if you're awful, then you deserve to get what's coming to you. So, but believe people because this shit happens literally everywhere all the time.
Yeah, and I think like Zach said, the other thing, like, which I'm really glad you brought up, is like, speak up. Like if you're in a position where you can do so, like, and support somebody, like even if it's not directly affecting you, like you got a moral obligation to stick up. Like I know it's tough sometimes,
social contract, right?
but you got to do it. All right, so now that we've ripped that awful Band-Aid off, let's get into another topic. So I think literally today it was announced that Scarlett Johansson is suing the Walt Disney Company over, again, for lack of a better word, unpaid royalties or box office, percentages due to the simultaneous launch on Disney Plus of Black Widow right alongside theaters. So in other words, she's saying that hey, my bottom line, or like the money I would have made if this had just strictly been in theaters, was grossly impacted by the fact that it launched on Disney Plus, and I'm not getting any of that revenue. So if somebody purchases it on Disney Plus with the Premier whatever pass, I forget exactly what it's called, like I'm not seeing any money, and that's in breach of contract of what I was promised. And the response, at least that I've seen, is seemed to be overwhelmingly in her corner of like, hey, first of all, this all happened very fast. And, obviously, like when they wrote the contracts, they couldn't be prescient and like know that COVID was going to happen and all that stuff. But also kind of the right thing to do in this case would be to, compensate her for some of the purchases via Disney Plus. I agree with that. Do you guys agree?
Fuck yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, I don't know. There's going to be some people that are going to claim she's just being greedy and wants to get more money. And you guys, whoever that is, couldn't be any more wrong. Like, she has a point. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of the actual lawsuit, what she's specifically seeking in damages and the monetary amount. However, like, it's pretty obvious she deserves something, right? Like, you're right. Nobody could have predicted that this was going to happen. There's not exactly any wording in the contract that was going to, address something like this. But the fact is, and you can ask all the theaters because a lot of them were pissed about it too, right? Like them releasing it on Disney Plus, it's going to impact the movie sales. I'm a great example. Like I would have gone to the movie theaters if that was the only way that I could see it, but I didn't. I just decided to watch it from the comfort of my own home. So of course it's going to impact them. And I don't know that Scarlett can argue that she'd be entitled to the maximum amount that she would have gotten in a full theatrical release. But they should come to some sort of agreement. There should be some negotiated amount of sales that she should get from those Disney Plus purchases, because it's the exact same thing. You're literally taking them away. Prior to COVID, the only way imaginable for a movie to release is in the theaters. There is no alternatives. So that's pretty much a guarantee. To be releasing it via streaming like this and her seeing none of that isn't right. It's not so much that the movie isn't selling, is that you're literally taking away opportunities from her. Doesn't matter what the amount is, doesn't matter how much she got paid, how rich she is, or any of those things. She's entitled to that amount.
So for comparison, it made $80 million in box office theaters opening weekend and $60 million in Disney Plus. So it's nearly a 50-50, 75, well, I guess, sorry, 60-40, like ish, like kind of split, which is not insignificant, like for the amount of money that it pulled in via Disney Plus. Prior to hitting the record button, Adam had brought up the point that Warner Brothers had compensated various actors and creative personnel. I'm pulling this from CNN.com. The kind of the closest analogy would be that Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins were each paid more than $10 million. We don't have an exact figure for when they released Wonder Woman 1984 to HBO Max. So presumably in addition to what they were paid, as part of the original contract.
Not to mention releasing it on streaming day one makes it significantly easier to pirate. So imagine the amount of people who did neither because it was so readily available.
Yep.
On day one, and that's that's money lost on both ends.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I think just put movies back in theaters. That's my stance. Get them back in there.
I don't see, like, I mean, look, I can see certain things being like, theater or theatrical release only, but I've got to imagine Disney's one of those companies that, at least for some of their films, like, this is going to be a thing going forward. Like, maybe not all, like, and maybe Marvel movies will go back to it, but I got to imagine, like, a lot of companies are considering this for things because, but people like it. Like, but go ahead.
I'd be surprised if Shang-Chi is premiere access now.
You would be or wouldn't be surprised?
I would be.
Yeah.
After this debacle, unless they can clear it all up by then, because I'm assuming she's not going to be the only person affected by this.
No.
Yeah, I mean, she's also a massive star, so I doubt, I don't know the people in Shang-Chi, but I also
tied
would
to
imagine,
like box office sales and stuff.
yeah, for sure. I'm sure it's in their contracts. Like the bigger stars are gonna be the ones who have this. I look at this a lot like fighters and like pay-per-view points. Like, some high-end fighters are going to make money off of the pay-per-view sales, but others aren't going to get anything from that. So they could care less where they're going to be stationed in terms of where the views are going to come from. So I would imagine someone like ScarJo is going to take in a lot more money from the sales than, I don't know his name, but the guy who's starring in Shang-Chi. Wouldn't be surprised if it's not even part of his contract, at least not for the first
That's
movie.
normally the sequel. Normally your first
Yeah.
movie. Like Gal Gadot she get paid what, $500,000 for Wonder Woman 1, and then Wonder Woman 2 she's like, yo, I'm getting the back end of this. Give me my
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Legal precedent's the other thing, like if this thing goes to court and like there's a ruling on it, like then you've got legal precedent,
chance.
like moving forward. I think that's
Yeah,
something that like you don't want to probably risk as a studio.
There's no chance it's going to get that far. They're going to settle. I think
Yeah.
Disney will do the right thing, and they'll come to some sort of agreement.
You
There's
don't
no
want
way.
and like, yeah,
don't wanna
and you
create
don't want
that,
to.
yeah.
They don't want to taint the Marvel name. Not that I'm saying like it would like drastically change the course, but you don't want just bad blood anywhere near what is arguably the greatest cinematic achievement ever.
Certainly
I
the
do have
biggest financially. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I
Adam.
do have an update on the original story where, let's see, New York Times reporter Brooks Barnes shared part of Disney's statement in response to our lawsuit. They said they have no merit whatsoever. It's sad and distressing, and it's callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, Jesus.
Disney has fully complied with Mitch Johansson's contract, and furthermore, the release of Blackwood on Disney Plus has significantly enhanced her ability to earn additional compensation on top of the $20 million she has received to date. So they're saying that they haven't breached her contract. And again, I don't know the fine details of her contract, so maybe they haven't. But again, also when you're getting sued, you can't be like, yeah, you're right, we broke that. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. Either way, I've always said this when it comes to sports, when it comes to the movies. Like, she's already received $20 million. You're like, what does she need more? Now, everybody who has an ability to make money, get your money, because the people above you who are making money off of you are making way more than you. So get every dollar and cent you can get. Like when Aaron Rodgers like, I need more money. I'm like, yeah, give that man more money. He deserves it. Because the Green Bay Packers are making billions, and he's just trying to make millions.
That
So
press conference yesterday was great.
Oh,
it was so good.
I didn't see it. Can you summarize
pretty
what
much
happened?
like,
Dude.
here's why they suck.
yeah, he's
Yeah,
like,
he
he's
just-
like, the
right-
team is great, the organization is trash.
Yeah, after a Packers practice, he just listed all the reasons as to why the Packers front office sucks, why he hates them and doesn't want to work with them, why he wants to be traded in like a 17-minute like
That's
Q&A
awesome.
session.
That's
And then
amazing.
he listed all of the players that he regrets they got rid of.
Yep. It was like 20
Like
dudes.
just, bro, it was just, yeah, all these guys we got rid of and they weren't respect, bro. It was just, it's worth a watch. Just the first 5 minutes alone is gold. But yeah, man, get your money. I think they probably didn't violate any terms of the contract because they're
COVID
probably
wasn't in
held up.
there.
Right, it's not in there, but you're actively partaking in something that's going to have a detrimental effect on her ability to earn money on this contract. You know, that's I think where they have the argument, right, which is the Disney Plus thing.
It's similar
so
to
they're saying-
Chappelle. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah. It's weird that they're saying the release of Black Widow on Disney Plus has significantly enhanced her ability to earn a disc.
Yeah.
So does she get paid off of that?
I don't think
know.
so. I
don't know.
think they're. I could be
They're
wrong.
arguing the viewership, maybe, you know.
Yeah, like drove
know.
like box off because people like word of mouth, like, oh, it's good. Somebody will go see in theaters. Like, I don't know. I'd be curious if they clarify that point. But yeah, it reminds me of the Chappelle situation where like he had a like falling out with Viacom, who owns Paramount, who in turn owns Comedy Central, over essentially like what was originally a syndication deal for cable. Like streaming didn't exist, like it's basically cable and like home media. And he asked Netflix and they acquiesced to take down the Chappelle Show because he said, like, look, like I'm getting fucked. Like every time you watch an episode of Chappelle Show on streaming, they're getting paid. I'm not. This isn't right. Like I know it wasn't around, but like we need to like reconfigure the deal and make this right. And Netflix took it down. He settled. They figured it out and like got paid. And I think rightly so, right? Like it seems fucked up to like have a completely new and dominant way of consuming media like come along after you've kind of made a deal on something and then like to not be compensated for it. Like it's just wrong. Like I mean, he is the Chappelle Show, right? Like I mean, for him not to get paid like was criminal. And I think that like they made the right call in settling that pretty quickly. And
Yeah. And that one is especially interesting because they made the deal for him for the stand-up specials, so they had a pre-existing relationship. They're like, let's not piss off a dude who makes a lot of money for us. Let's give him his money.
Netflix
Scarlett
absolutely had
Johansson-
incentive. Yeah.
With her being out of the MCU now, I mean, I think they should still do right by her, but I wonder if they're less like if this was, Chris Evans like after Ragnarok, they would have figured something out. Now with her leaving, I don't know if they. Again, I think they should do the right thing, but we'll see.
You mean Chris Hemsworth?
Hemsworth. Yeah.
Chris Evans is great too. It doesn't matter.
Technically, if it was
Also,
Chris Evans after Ragnarok, I mean, you got
He only got 2 movies left.
Avengers.
But yeah, I mean, it's people like to be the good guys and make deals when they're still trying to make money off the people. So
Dude, have any of you gone back to watch the Chappelle Show?
Yes.
I watched it on
Like,
Netflix.
holy shit!
The
Like,
other-
I don't know how the fuck that shit would not be allowed to be on TV.
I think
today.
it would
No
like.
fucking way.
Well,
bro.
look at South Park. South Park still does stuff like that.
Late
Like,
night Comedy Central, you can do whatever you
You,
want.
you just have to not give a fuck. Like you have to stay the course and be consistent, and you're fine.
I don't
And
think
there's a
they
little
should.
bit of a statute of limitations, but his stand-up specials are no less. Like I just rewatched
It's
the
different. Yeah.
I think it was Sticks and Stones or whatever. Anyway, like I was just like, yep, like he is just as edgy as he ever was. Yeah, but sorry to digress there. But yeah, I agree. Like it still pushes the envelope today, which says something. But anyway. So we'll see. It'll be curious to see what happens. I agree with you guys. I think they will settle long before it goes to court. I totally support her. I think like sometimes you have to kind of twist the corporate arm a little bit to get this. So to say this is like an overreaction or she's like, kind of skipping steps. Like I'm sure at some point her agent probably asked or they had conversations and
That's what I'm curious about. Like that's what like I'm wondering what happened behind closed doors because like I feel like that's fucked up. Like did her and her agent be like, hey, I think we should be entitled to some of this money because of A, B, and C, and they're like, no. What drove them to have to file a lawsuit? Because I mean I think they're gonna settle, of course, but I think that looks bad to have Scarlett Johansson suing Disney. That's
Leverage,
a bad
man.
look,
Yeah.
man.
If you get
That's a
people
really
behind
bad
you,
look.
Disney don't like being in the
Forward
headlines for anything other than they made bank or they have a hot banger
Like,
on their hand.
Imagine Robert Downey suing them or something like that. Like, to me, this is just as big a deal. It's a bad look.
it's just it's a throwing her big dick on the table and be like, hey, don't let's not make this work. Give me my money.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how quickly it settles too, because I was shocked that to learn this week that Frank Darabont and AMC just settled their Walking Dead lawsuit. Like that shit happened like the start of the second season, I think, is when like those headlines hit. Like they had fired him as showrunner.
10 years later.
He said he was entitled, and he made a lot of fucking money because as that was going on, the show was raking in more and more and more cash. I think he got like 300 million or something crazy like that. Like it was a lot.
Good deal for him. Just
mean-
sit back and get some money, right?
Yeah, he was just like, sure, this show's still doing well. I don't know who still watches that. I don't know any person in my life that does, but let me make sure I didn't misquote that. Anyway, so anything else to add? Yeah, $300 million lawsuit is what it was originally. Let's see what the settlement was. Y'all keep talking about Black Widow. Give me a second.
No, that's kind of like the guys for Friday the 13th. That's why they stopped working on that game, because some dude was like, yo, I haven't been credited for this, and I made this thing 30 years ago. So Friday the 13th is in limbo till they figure out that court case.
Yeah, Sean Cunningham and I forget the other guy. I've been in a pissing match for forever over who owns like the rights and all that stuff. That sucks because like I loved that game. That game would have continued to do super well. They probably could have even done a sequel and a better engine and stuff, but it was $200 million. So I was off by $100 million, but like cash, like that's significant, man. That is a significant chunk.
Straight cash, homie.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is run these people their money. They've earned it. Give it to them.
Especially his situation was shitty. Not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but like getting fired, he basically like that show would not have been as successful. Like that first season, 6 episodes, I think, although it was
Six-episode pilot, yeah,
was
awesome.
amazing. Like if that had been garbage, like that show would have never had the success. Like I mean, that it was like one of the first like cable TV like non HBO shows that like felt like had like HBO quality. Like that was like cinema quality. So, all right. Let's round out the podcast with some talk around D&D, aka Dungeons and Dragons, something that I am very new to. As I said at the top of the show, so is George. Adam's been playing significantly longer and has a podcast called
I'll Misfit Rolls.
Here you go. Giving you the plug. Yeah, I've got the same exact die. I was on a roll 20, a nat 20 roll last night. And then, Zach, I know you said you've played a game before at PAX. Was it like a one shot that you guys did, or like?
Yeah. So what happens is like they give you like a character sheet and everything, and you have like the very basics of your character. You can write in whatever you want, for his backstory and everything. And they sit you down at a table with I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 other people or something like that, and they'll give you. There's a DM there. And you have 2 hours, and you just run through whatever scenario he's got laid out for you. And yeah, it's kind of just like a learning experience to kind of dip your feet in and see if it's something that you'd like or not. And I mean, I had a lot of fun with it because the other people I were with were also new. So it was kind of all of our first times, rolling the dice and doing all that. And it was really fun.
Yeah, I did something similar for my first time. It was like a 3 session like mini campaign with a pre-rolled character. Like essentially, I mean, like I could do my backstory and all that stuff, but they were like, hey, to simplify this, like here's kind of like within reason like the stats that you're gonna have. If you want to tweak something here or there, we can work with you. And it was just like kind of right into it. So George, you just jumped right into a campaign for your first time, right? Like you had no experience prior to that. I think I just messaged you and I was like, hey, we got room for somebody. Do you want to do like a campaign? And you just jumped in headlong. How did you start with it, Adam? Did you do like a one-shot or mini campaign, or did you also just kind of jump into like a full-on?
Yeah, my friend started me on a different game called Pathfinder, which is very much like D&D. And then after that, we wanted to keep playing. So I played with another group, and then for like 2 months. And then it was like, hey, if you want to play, I'm going to have to run it. So then I ran games for like 2.5 or 3 years. And then we've been doing the podcast group for the last 2 years or whatever. So I've been playing for about 5 years, and I had to DM for half of those.
That's cool. What do you like better, playing or DMing? Because I'm like about to dip my toe, I think, into like doing some DMing.
I prefer playing. That's just because I like to not have to prepare. I could just be stupid and do whatever thing I want and not have to think about it at all. DMing is much more, I think it's much more fun. Like you can do a lot more things with that, of course, because you get to control and set things up. So there's pluses to both. But just for me, not like I'm a procrastinator, so not having to actually do anything is great for me. So I like playing more. But most people who do both prefer the control of DMing.
Interesting. Zach, you'll be happy to know that there are lots of sci-fi tabletop RPGs, like including Cyberpunk, obviously, and there's a spin-off of Pathfinder called Starfinder.
Starfinder, baby.
That's supposed to be good. And
A lot of Star Wars ones out there.
Yep, Star Wars I know of, and The Expanse. I told you that's how that whole world started as like a was going to be a video game and tabletop RPG. I think that actually the tabletop RPG might be like back in production. Like, don't quote me on that, but I mean, so
Yeah, I love sci-fi. That would, if I was gonna ever like fully commit to one, I think I would want to run a campaign in sci-fi.
that's what I want to DM actually. Is like I want to do like a sci-fi, because I think that's like more like my jam, and I think I'd have more fun like with that, like as for the, you know, like from a DM standpoint. But yeah, I've really had a good time. I think COVID was like the perfect time to get into Dungeons and Dragons. Like frankly, like not having to like get in the car and be somewhere, like just being able to log on to the computer has been great for D&D. It's kept it very casual. Technology is frankly fantastic. I'm super impressed with D&D Beyond as far as like character sheet management and all that kind of good stuff. And we've been using Roll20 for like just like maps and stuff. I think that site's dog shit. Like, I'll just go ahead and say it. Like, as far as like character creation and stuff, like it just straight up doesn't work most of the time for anything that we tried. But for maps and handouts and like little combat boards, like, you know, it's pretty decent. So
Yeah, you only use that site for maps, and then you can actually link your D&D Beyond into Roll20. So that's what you're supposed to do, because yeah, Roll20 is good for maps, and that's it. It's very good for maps.
yeah, we tried, like, bless us, like a couple times. Like our DM was like, oh, let's give it one more go and see, and it just like, nope. I tried to level up, and it like all my stats got like all jumbled up, and then like it like the page crashed. It just like, you know, I don't want technology to push back something that is already kind of like new to me and like hard to understand. Like I think D&D Beyond's nice because like I just hit level up yesterday, and like it was like, here's like what you can do at like your new level, like pick a new spell to learn, and like your HP went up automatically, and like I just, it's so clean and intuitive, really really nice. Would you play more, Zach, like if given the opportunity? Like not necessarily for D&D, but like
Yeah, I've thought about it because my buddy, like I said, he plays all the time, and he's even asked me. He was like, I might be starting a new campaign. You know, do you want to jump in? And I don't know. I've been doing a lot of work, just like in general, you know, and I just don't find the time to do it. Like I haven't even been playing games too much. I've just been swamped. But would I? Yes, I would like to. I think it'd be really cool. I think it's like right up my alley. I love the whole creative aspect of it too, and I think it's really really cool. I have a character ready to go in my head. It's a midget, not a midget. I'm sorry, that's not the right word. It's a dwarven bodyguard, and I'm talking like super overprotective. Like if the guy I'm bodyguarding is going into whatever to take a piss, I gotta go check out that room real quick to make sure he's good, man. Hold on a second, man. You can't go in there. I gotta make sure there's no ninjas or anything. You know what I'm saying? And then just go in there. And that's with everything. Somebody wants to talk to him, you gotta talk to me. He might not like it. He could probably hate me, but you gotta talk to me, man.
Yeah, you got to protect like the caster, who are like the weakest person in the party. Be like, hold on, I got this guy. Hold on a second.
that's me.
Yeah.
I did like, so I debated like for so we just leveled up to level 7, I think, and so I got my first 4th level spell. You'll be pleased to know, because I was like, man, I almost did one that would allow me and like somebody like within like I think 6 feet like to teleport from one spot to another, and I'm like, I could see that being useful, but instead I opted for my first buff spell, which is called Stone Skin, and it gives like any like, you know, target of my choice like resistance to piercing, bludgeoning, or like non-magical piercing, bludgeoning, or slashing. So like, and it's for the an hour. So when we're in combat next time, George, if I cast it on you, you take half the damage that you normally would. So as a tank, like, you know, as a, like our fighter, like you're gonna be like way more tankier, say, or like Kosa or whoever I cast it on will be cool. So like I love like toying around with that kind of stuff. Like it's amazing to see like all the different abilities and spells, and like I personally have enjoyed that journey of like, as I've gotten more options for stuff, like kind of like doing some experimentation. Like I think like combat really clicked for our group like after we hit like maybe like level 4-ish, like George, like where like you started having like your superiority die and like figuring out that, and you like using adrenaline burst or whatever the ability is that where you kind of get extra shit. Like it's made combat way more exciting, and I imagine as a DM you'd probably enjoy that more too, like, you know, because you can kind of throw more complex scenarios like at people. You know what kobolds are, Adam?
Yeah, yeah, they're the easiest thing in the world to kill.
Oh my god!
Let me just tell you, like, it's so funny.
What we did.
Our first quest was like it was intended to be like a beginner quest thing where it was, like I guess that's pretty common like in D&D, like kobolds
Kobolds
are,
and
like,
goblins.
so we were sent to like keep them from going into a city, and like our DM assumed that we were probably going to go and like enter combat and like kill them and like go back to our quest givers and you know, get some experience and get our next quest, and it was just going to be one and done. Instead, like, we befriended them and we tried to integrate them into like society, which turned into this like it all the way to now, like this like huge like socio-political like essentially it's turned into a war that's going on because like we didn't feel right about going into like the forest and just like wiping out these people or like forcefully telling them where they could and couldn't go. It's wild. And he just rolled with it. He was like, you know what? Like I saw like an intriguing thread that kind of dangled off from what I thought like was going to happen. And like, I'll let y'all tug on it. And we roll with it, which is,
That's the best part when you just throw something crazy out, and he's like, you know what? I guess I'll figure this out. And it's always, it's always the trope of like, the bard's always horny or whatever. So it's like, well, you're fighting a 5th level monster, but I guess make a roll to see if you can be horny with it or something ridiculous. People try nonsense, and that's the fun part. Is just like, I don't even think this is possible, but I guess you guys can try it. And then if the dice, that's the great thing. If it's a dice game, the dice say you're good, then all right, let me deal with this. That's fun as a DM. Just like, do whatever you want, dude. I'll make some. Like half of more than half of when I DM'd was just like, just say something and I'll bullshit and we'll figure. It's just improv. I improv for 2 hours or 3 hours at a time, and we have fun.
Hell yeah.
So Zach, to get back to it, yes, the Expanse RPG is a real thing. There's like stuff that you can actually buy. A little taster for you in case you're interested. You can so there's a spaceship system where you can create your own spaceship, and there's space combat specifically for the Expanse, which includes you know, assaults and like space like on like stations, and then like ship to ship combat. It looks like instead of health, you have something called fortune that measures your like near misses, your close scrapes, and like trivial damage that your character takes. It also modifies like dice roll and stuff like that. So that sounds really, really cool. Like I might like look into that and like see if we can do like a one shot. Because
Yeah,
you know,
just
we both...
based off watching the show, like how like rich that world is. Like I can only imagine how much more detail they go into, like when you're reading, you know, the storybook for the campaigns and stuff like that. So like I can only imagine how awesome that is.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. All right. Well, I know, Zach, you have a hard out here approaching, so like really super quick, like let's just talk about what we've been playing, and we'll call it an episode. We're about the 45-minute mark, so.
Yeah, for me, I've been playing Hitman 2 is what I jumped back into the last week.
Not Silent Assassin, I'm assuming, like the new IO one.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm really liking it. The only thing I wish is the story is like I have no idea what's going on in the story.
That's all.
Two's the roughest with story for sure. They went,
and it's all like all like paintings. Like you watch it, it's all like paintings. There's no real like cutscenes or anything like that. I mean, there's a few, but it's not like I don't know. It's not your typical kind of story. And but the gameplay and everything, like all that, is awesome. Like I'm having such a good time. You know, every map's like a puzzle, and you know, going through and um, the replay value is like endless. Like there's so many different stories that you can find in there, and different threads to pull on and go in different directions, and everything is really really cool. But I'm just excited to get to Hitman 3 because I heard that one is like freaking awesome.
Yeah, they do up the production quality, like in terms of cutscenes and stuff like that. I think like in between every mission, there's like a little like full on like animated cutscene and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm gonna go back. They give you the option in this one to play through the first game again, I think.
3 also lets you play 2 and 1 in it if you own them.
Yeah,
already.
I'm debating on whether I want to go through it again or if I just want to watch on YouTube the story of 1. It asked me too, and it was like, "Do you want to replay 1?" And I was like, "No, I don't need that." And I went right to 2, and I need it bad because I have no idea what's happening. 47 doesn't have any memory or something like that, and
Yeah, you could probably watch a 10-minute YouTube video and be caught up. You'd be fine.
yeah, I don't know, yeah, but gameplay top notch. It's awesome. And the Ascent came out today. I haven't played it yet, but I have it pre-downloaded. I'm really excited to try it out.
Yeah, I think a couple of us are gonna give it a go. I'm gonna download it myself right now. I was just clearing up some space, getting rid of some shit on my damn computer.
It's getting you know pretty good reviews everywhere, so I'm excited to check it out. I haven't seen anything
It's
like super
cross
negative.
play, cross save, all that stuff. I think.
It's yeah, I think that's right. It's got some mediocre reviews, which has me less excited, but
I haven't seen any of those. I only looked them up earlier this morning.
yeah, it's like it seems like the gunplay is really good. Seems to be like the primary strength of it.
And I heard the world is cool.
The world is cool, like the environmental stuff. Yeah, but I heard the characters are assholes, and like it's not a very rewarding game, unfortunately. Like people just berate you all the time. That's one of the reviews I saw, like, which doesn't sound fun, but I don't know. Well, we'll see.
As long as the loop's fine, I guess that's all that matters.
Yeah.
All right, fellas.
Well, no, don't. If you could just leave your camera on so it doesn't on Streamlabs, it'll like everyone's camera will get all like jacked up in the overlay.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, you can just mute and there you go.
Cool.
Awesome.
Later, y'all.
See you, man. I'll boot you from the meeting here once we're done.
Gotcha.
Cool. Thanks, dude. How about you, Adam? What have you been playing, man?
I haven't played anything really. I played Spider-Man. I don't remember if I said on the podcast or not. Finished that up. Played Fall Guys with you, but the main thing I did was watch the first 9 episodes of Ted Lasso. Everyone's right. Show's fantastic. It's basically a perfect TV show. I'm on the last episode now, and then season 2 just started. So Ted Lasso's what I've been playing.
Hey, when more of us have watched Ted Lasso, I want to do like a last like. I mean, it was like the perfect balm during COVID, but like more than that, like I think it's such a like it's a show that wins you over, right? Like there's parallels between me watching like the first episode of the show and like being very skeptical of like how positive he is and like how positive the show is and like how the characters react to him. Like I was the same person where I'm like, I don't know, this is kind of cheesy and stupid. And then
I loved it from the start. People just overhyped him. Like, there's no way it's gonna live up to the hype. And I was like, I love fucking Ted Lasso. Let's go.
As a soccer fan, George.
I don't even like soccer.
No, I'm saying, but like I think he would get a kick out of like some of those in jokes, you know, like with soccer. But
The way the players
It's a
act.
comedy.
yes,
It's comedy drama is what I would say.
if you want my
Ted Lasso. Where is it on? Where could you?
Apple TV Plus, you get 6 free months on PlayStation just by downloading the app. So like,
I
yeah,
think
why
I
I have
have a certain amount. I might have already used it. I had a certain amount.
even if
free
you
on
have
it.
like and you like so I used the trial, like you're still eligible.
Yeah, it stacks.
Yep. So get on
check
it.
it out. Maybe.
It's fantastic. I mean, dude, it's my favorite new show of this year that I've
10
discovered.
30-minute episodes. You absolutely should watch it.
Yeah. Yep, 10 30-minute episodes. It's wonderful. Good thing to watch with the wife. Like if you want to feel good, like if you're having a stressful day, like it's like one of those shows that like you cannot help but like smile and be like, "Man, I feel better, you know. I'm having a better day for having watched Ted Lasso."
All right.
What about you, George? What have you been playing, man?
Me. I mean, yeah. I think we kind of covered it all in this last episode. I don't think anything really has changed since Sunday. But yeah, a little bit of Fall Guys on stream here and there. Still been playing mostly Rogue Company. Been having fun shooting shit up with that. I think I'm gonna give the Ascent a go as well. Haven't played any more of Scarlet Nexus. Just haven't had the time yet, but need to get in some more time on that as well because it's got some good cool combat. And that's basically it. That's pretty much it for me right now.
Very cool. Yeah. I'm gonna let y'all check out the Ascent and tell me how it is. I'm 68 hours now into Persona. Like I can see the end game, right? Like the semester goes through January, and I'm in like mid-November right now. So
You
like,
have Royal?
Royal, yeah.
Isn't there an extra semester in Royal? Isn't that the whole point?
I don't know what it ended. I just looked at like kind of the classroom stuff, like to see how long that went. There's no classroom answers because I'm a cheating bastard. Like I just look them up. Like when the teacher asks me a question, I'm like, I don't know what the answer is. I'm gonna look up in a guide so I can get that sweet social stats. So yeah, it might go beyond that. If that's the case, like that's cool. But yeah, I've recruited the last party member. We'll put it that way. So it feels like I'm in the home stretch ish. Like and a home stretch is like I'm using that loosely. Like I think like 90 hours is like the average for like the playthrough. But I've completely fallen in love. Like I'm gonna see this one through. Like I'm getting to that point where I'm a little bit in panic mode that it's gonna be over like soon ish. Because now like I'm really invested in everyone's story and stuff. But the other game that I just finished last week, finally went back to It Takes Two with my brother and played the back half of that over 2 nights. Like so we did like 25% of the game per night for 2 nights in a row. And I think that's my game of the year so far, fellas. Like it's just a special game. It's a wonderful story. It is just like mechanically there's so much variety. Like every level is completely different in terms of like not only like the artistic look of it, like the location and all that, but there's a new mechanic for each player, like in each new level. So like it just constantly feels fresh. And I teared up a little bit at the end. Like as a child of divorce, like there's a lot of stuff that like just like really like hit me right in the feels, like in a way that I wasn't expecting, because it's very funny for most of the game. But like yeah, it's a special game. It's such a huge step up from A Way Out. Like I just like I couldn't be more impressed with how it turned out, honestly. Like so I'm hoping that I can convince my wife to play through it again, so I can swap characters and just kind of casually play with her sometime soon. But I don't have a higher recommendation this year than that, especially for $40 and that friend pass, where if you buy a copy or someone buys a copy, like you can play it with a friend, at no extra charge. Like it's very un-EA for an EA game. And speaking of funny press conferences, I had to explain to my brother, and I was like, you should just go watch this. Everyone kind of knows like the meme, the fuck the Oscars, but like the part that doesn't often come up is how he just shits all over EA's business model. Like prior to that, where he's like, no, there's no fucking microtransactions or any of that bullshit. Like none of that garbage. Like he just like, it's his fucking publisher, and he's just kind of like directly commenting on the thing that everyone's mad about at the time. This is around Battlefront 2, of course. But anyway, yeah, I Kyle couldn't believe it. He's like, really, you like said that? I'm like, oh yeah. He said he was jet lagged, but he's pretty clearly like drunk. So hats off to Joseph Ferris and the team. Like they made something truly special, and I hope they continue to get to make what they have been making. Like I know it's sold modestly well, but I think games like that are important, not only as art, but like co-op is like something that seems to be kind of, it's a genre or subgenre that's getting smaller and smaller. There's lots of games and services that are co-op, but like this kind of experience where it's just like 2-player couch co-op or 2-player online is not something you see a whole lot of. So I hope they get to keep on making it. And
Right on.
that's it for me. I've started Ted Lasso season 2, but I won't comment on that because Adam hasn't gotten there. But we'll circle back. George, watch it. If you don't have if you for some reason it doesn't stack, and I'm almost 100% sure that it does, hit me up. I'll give you the sweet deets so you can watch the first couple episodes and see if you like it. Apple TV Plus is making moves, man. I was looking at their roster lineup, like they have more and more content, which is good. And $5 is a good price point, I think, for that service. So.
Oh man, I can't deal with any more freaking more subscription fees, man.
Yeah, so I rotate like certain things in and out, right? Like when I like catch up on something. So like CBS I have during football season, or Paramount Plus now, or whatever it's called. Like for football season, since we don't have cable, like I'll do that, and then I'll kind of like can it. My must-haves like are pretty much just like Netflix, and even that I'm kind of like considering like scrapping like until some shows come back that I want to watch. But Prime and like Hulu are like my two favorite, because Hulu I get with like the Disney Plus like bundle, so I kind of consider those like, you know, an ESPN Plus, like that's like all kind of one thing. So all right, well, that brings us to 55 minutes and the end of the show. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We may start doing these live next week, like we'll see. We're testing out a new format for recording this week, so once we've evaluated the quality of that, we may do a simultaneous live show and record it for on demand for later. So stay tuned on that. We will have our next episode of Aliens versus Predator, which is Aliens versus Predator, the most recent film, up pretty shortly. I think within the next week or so, we'll be recording that and putting it out as a separate episode. So if you've been following along with that, you have something to look forward to. Anybody want to plug anything before we go?
Oh, man.
All right.
Good here.
Awesome. All right. Well, until next week, thanks for hanging out. Bye.
Later. Peace.